Mike the Troop Jackson, back with another edition of Fighters Talk, and I'm here in Orange, California, with the Karate World Champion, who will be making her professional MMA debut, June 23rd?
June 23rd, yes, sir.
June 23rd for Legacy Fighting Alliance. Colbey Northcutt, thank you for having me out here in this. This is a beautiful city. This is a beautiful city.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
I love Orange. Now, before we get into the good stuff, what brings you to California?
Man, I graduated school, just finished up in December, and I kind of told my family I wanted to dive right in and just focus 100% on fighting. And I felt like in Houston, the places we were training at, none of them really felt like they were the best place for me. Mm-hmm. So I told my dad and my mom I wanted to get up and go to California, so I literally made the drive January 1st, and I've been out here training for my camp full time, and I love it.
Now, did you know that you were going to make your MMA debut before you moved, or was this kind of all just kind of happen at the same time?
No, yeah, I did know. I was actually going to fight in March, on the March 24th card, but in January, late January, I kind of hurt my hip.
Okay.
So I had to take a pause on that, kind of hold back for about 6 weeks, let that heal, and then I started training again. It felt fine, so then June 23rd was the new date.
Now, we haven't seen you compete. It's been almost 3 years.
It has been.
Your last fight was for Legacy. It was the Legacy Amateur Series title, and you defeated Amy Coleman, and there's a long layoff. Now, after the fight, was the layoff expected, or it just kind of happened?
No, it kind of just happened. That was in the summer, and then I kind of decided I want to take a break and go to school. So, you know, when late August, early September, when school started, that's when I jumped into school, and so that's why I took that long of a break to kind of finish. And, yeah, now I'm finished and I'm back at it.
What did you get your degree in?
Communications.
Okay, very nice. Now, any plans to use that, or is just maybe the future?
It's funny because I actually always wanted to be a journalist and a newscaster ever since I was in, you know, middle school, high school. I always wanted to be a newscaster, a news anchor. So, you know, when I decided I wanted to go and take on fighting, that kind of got put on the back burner, and then I went back to school. So, I mean, I can go any way, really. I mean, I would love to get to the UFC, have a couple fights, and even be, like, on the round table, maybe work for Fox. Like, anything. There's so many doors that could be open. I could go either way. So. Yeah,
for sure. And like I tell people, what I do, you can't fight forever, and you need to have a backup plan. And we definitely see that you have one, and that's important. You know, you can't fight forever. But you're taking on Courtney King, June 23rd. You're both making your professional debuts, and it's going to be live on Access TV. Yeah. Is that any added pressure for you, being that you're making your professional debut on national TV?
I mean, a little bit. I feel like there's always kind of that added pressure, kind of expectations I have to live up to, being Sage's sister. Right. You kind of see him in the spotlight, and him being the UFC. I feel like I have to kind of live up to that, sort of. I'm not sure really why they put me on the TV card, being my pro debut, but I'm super grateful for that, and extremely humbled. You know, I really have to put on a show for everybody, so I'm definitely going to do that.
Now, speaking of Sage, since your last fight, I mean, he has become, I don't even know really how to describe it. Even as a kid, like, he was known, people knew him, you know, he's a world champion in karate, he was popular, but now it seems like he's on a whole nother level right now.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because before I took a break and went to school, none of that had happened. You know, he was even, you know, he graduated from high school and he went to college. Kind of, you know, that's what he was going to pursue. So it kind of happened overnight. And seeing where he's gone in the past, you know, 2 years, he's been in the UFC for almost 2 years now. It's kind of like, you know, made me go, wow, it gave me that itch to kind of want to come back and do it too. Yeah,
I mean, now is it just him out there performing? Is it maybe a little bit of sibling rivalry? You want to see how high you can get as well? Like, what is it for you?
You know, it's funny because when I started karate when I was 7 and he was 4, we did everything together. Every karate tournament, from hundreds and hundreds of tournaments to all the training. You know, when we were younger, it was kind of a competition, but then when he got older and can, you know, take me, it kind of became, you know, just training partners and wanting to help me. So, you know, kind of maybe me wanting to be like him, sort of, you know, but also doing it for myself as well. So
now, has he had any input on like your career in this and the future in fighting? Has he helped at all, or is he just kind of letting you do your thing?
For this camp, not really, since I've been out here in California, and he's been in Houston. He's come out here a couple times when he was training with Tyron Woodley for his camp. They came up here to visit and train with Raymond and Sage.
Okay.
But I mean, I've kind of been doing it myself. But as for input, I mean, he's always been, you know how he is, extremely positive. He's always believed in me and has known that I can do it. So, I mean, he's just super encouraging.
That he is.
You need that.
You do. You know, this is. Although you have a team around you, like you're the only one that's fighting in the ring or the cage. Like you're in there by yourself, and it's always good to have a lot of positive support behind you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to kind of give you that push. We know you said in the past your goal was to get to the UFC, and this is obviously before Sage was in the UFC.
Right.
What would it be? What would it mean to you to be the first brother and sister?
Oh my gosh,
fighters in the UFC
man,
together?
that would be, you know, obviously making history because it's never been done before. I think there's so many things that you could do with a brother-sister duo, you know, and marketing me and Sage, is that it would be super awesome to even be on the same card as him, you know, and train together and do that. So, I mean, that would be the dream, right?
Who wouldn't want to, like, buy that? I'd buy it.
Right? Well, thank you.
But no, like, I mean, this is something that, like you said, it hasn't happened. We've seen, you know, brothers, but with the increasing popularity of women's MMA, I mean, we're about to see the addition of the 125-pound division.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. That'll be exciting.
Now, is that anything you've ever considered, going to 25? Or
you know, I could maybe go to 125, but I think 135 would be ideal, and I could definitely fight at 45.
Okay.
So I could do 35 or 45. I'd have to see if I can get to 125 first, because I've never cut that low.
That's definitely, and I've been watching you for a while. I've seen, and you're a larger girl compared to the normal 125ers I've seen.
Right.
And sometimes the 125ers are kind of right there in the middle between the 15s and 35s.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Yeah, I mean, if it's there, then I could definitely go for it. But
what is your take on the current state of the 135-pound division?
Man, that's another thing too. When I was in school for those couple of years, it's like you just kind of see the whole women's division in the UFC just kind of like just spiral. Like Ronda lost, then Holly lost, then Misha lost. It's kind of like been tossed around. It's kind of like Ronda was so dominant for so long that it was kind of like, man, is anybody going to beat her? And now that it's up in the air, it's almost it makes you kind of feel like you have more of a chance, so to speak, if that makes any sense. So, man, anything's possible.
Yeah, Ronda, she was on top. When
yeah, you kind of thought it would take forever for her to get beat, and then look what happened.
So, do you remember where you were when she got beat?
Oh, yeah, I was actually back in Texas watching that fight, and it's funny because, Holly obviously fought for legacy, and me and my dad saw that, and obviously my family, and then seeing her striking, it's kind of like, I don't want to say we knew it would happen, but we kind of did, but it was a shock. We were like, can't believe that just happened.
I actually remember I was driving back. I was in the car, actually. I was driving, and I had Christian with me, and someone was showing on Periscope, and so I'm driving, and I'm kind of like doing one of these numbers, and then he said, yeah, and he was sitting there like this, and then he like, oh! And
oh my gosh, it was ridiculous.
I was like, whoa! I was like, don't crash, Yeah. But it was definitely a crazy moment in the, just in the sport itself, because not even just in her division, but she was so popular.
Yeah.
And really, she still is popular.
Oh, absolutely. She'll always be Ronda, for sure. I mean, she paved the way for women altogether. Before her, Dana always said there'd never be women.
Yeah.
And look what she did for all of us, so
now,
you can always be grateful.
I agree. Do you follow Invicta at all?
I do.
And what do you think about what they're doing right now, as far as for women's MMA?
Man, I think Invicta's also playing a huge part. I mean, they're also being featured on UFC Fight Pass, but I think, UFC takes a lot of those women from Invicta, so I think Invicta's a huge part in the women getting to UFC. Absolutely. You'll get to see lots of stars potentially, become UFC champs, I believe. So
I agree. I actually had a conversation with Tanya Everger not too long ago.
Oh, she's cool.
Right?
Yeah.
And my question to her was, you have the UFC coming in, and they were kind of, I don't want to say snatching up the fighters, but that's kind of what they were doing. They were kind of just taking them away. And for at least my outlook, I didn't feel the women's division as a whole was that deep. to be sustainable.
But absolutely, it's definitely not like the men who there's 100+ people in the UFC roster and the 55 weight class.
Correct, but now apparently there's so many women who are jumping into MMA, and just their roster itself is growing. You're constantly seeing, at least I'm constantly getting press releases from Invicta saying, "Oh, we just signed like 6 new fighters." And
no way.
I was like, where are these women
I didn't know that.
Like,
that's cool.
So now that I look at it a little bit more in depth, I feel that the Invicta is the right place for people to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for you, the LFA right now is sort of we compare it to the NCAA, to the NBA as kind of the league. Do you feel that LFA is the place to be to get you into the UFC?
For me personally, I mean, you never really know, right? My brother went from Legacy to the UFC, so I think it's definitely possible, and UFC's definitely taken fighters from Legacy. So, but if Invicta, after a couple fights with Legacy, comes along, I mean, you never really, nothing's ever set in stone, right? So you can go either way.
You wouldn't object to like Invicta called you and say, "Hey, aren't you gonna fight?" Would you object to that, or?
I mean, it depends. I guess I'll cross that road when I get there, right? But I'm happy with Legacy right now, and right now it's where I want to fight.
There you go. So real quick, your fight again. You're taking on Courtney King, who is also making her professional debut. What do you know about Courtney going into the fight?
From what I've seen is, I think she's either had 8 or 9 amateur fights. I think she's like 5-3 or 6-3. A couple different websites have her record differently, but she's pretty tall, like myself, like 5'9", and a striker. So I think it'll be really interesting to see, us stand up and bang it out. Really, I mean, that's like what you want to see, right?
Who doesn't want to see the ladies bang it out? Now, in this time that you've been away from competition, I would assume that you've been training.
Absolutely.
See, that's what we like to hear. We don't.
I never fully stopped. Of course, I still trained every day. Mostly worked on my grappling every day, and then obviously when I came out here, I had a full camp.
Okay.
So.
Now you're out here. World
champion karate. It's actually Raymond Daniels. He fights for Bellator Kickboxing.
Okay.
It's actually his karate school, so he has been in my corner helping me throughout this whole camp, training with Tyler Wombles, the Classic Fight Team, and Felipe Fagolin of Training Foe MMA. So now,
how is it training with Raymond? I mean, he's obviously a phenomenal striker. He's world champion. How is it training with him?
He makes it so easy. I don't know. I mean, it is because I have a karate background. We've known each other for so long throughout all the karate tournaments and that. But he makes it so easy from a karate person to karate person. It's easy to understand. And I think that he's really going to bring out that karate background that I have that everybody wants to see. So I think it'll be super exciting.
So we can expect to see some spin stuff, some axe.
I don't know. He's a highlight reel, so I don't know if you'll see all of that.
That's what we said. Like, you got the man in your corner, and we want to see it. We want to see it.
I don't know. Maybe I'll pull it out.
There you go. Well, Colbey, thank you for having me out here.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
And again, I can't wait. June 23rd.
June 23rd.
Legacy Fighting Alliance 14, Houston, Texas. Make sure you watch Colbey Northcutt take on Courtney King live on Access TV.